For WCSB, I'm Rob Barden. I'm here in New York City at the Ed Sullivan Building at Push Creative, where I'm going to interview Joan Baker and Rudy Gaskins.
I sat down with Joan and Rudy and asked them how Push Creative got started.
It all began at Starbucks.
Okay. Interesting.
I don't know if you remember, but
No, I remember, sure.
I was,
That was our
at
first
the
office.
time, I was working, as I have since 1991, as a voiceover artist. And I also taught at a performing arts school here in Manhattan called PPAS, Professional Performing Arts School. And at the same time, Rudy decided he wanted to start his dream, which was an ad agency. So, although I was teaching, he started the ground running at a Starbucks, and you were interviewing people to become staff with Push Creative, right?
Right. Looking for one single staffer of some sort. But
I didn't
also,
remember that.
we just needed a place to meet people. I mean, when you start a business, if you don't have a lot of capital to get it going,
Right.
you still have to meet people. And what the strength of Push Creative is still the two of us and what we're capable of doing. So essentially, you meet someone and you let them know what you can do in terms of bringing together a project. So whether you meet them at a Starbucks, or whether you meet them in a nice plush office, doesn't matter as much as making sure they understand that you can deliver what they're looking for.
Joan tells us how building Push Creative from the humble beginnings at Starbucks grew.
Sometimes things start small. Nothing ever really starts as a conglomerate, right? But it starts small, and then we built through networking and through allowing people in to our vision, and then them connecting with us that they believed in it. We ended up getting office space at a post-production facility, and they ended up believing in us very much. We didn't pay them rent, but in return, the work that we got, we would use their facility, so they were a line item. So they would get paid that way, but initially we didn't pay rent for a number of years.
Yeah,
We
they
did
used
it
to call that
way.
a housekeeping arrangement.
Yeah,
I had never heard that term before, but
Wow.
when you become an entrepreneur, you start learning new terms.
Yeah.
Housekeeping arrangement is where you bring work to a facility in exchange for office space.
At Push Creative, Rudy explains why they are fantastic at what they do.
As a marketing agency, we have an understanding of the people to bring in to do any number of kinds of projects and how to oversee that work.
As separate individuals, Joan and Rudy were great at what they did. Joan explains when they fused each other's talents together, it was a match made in heaven.
and before Push Creative started, in voiceover, not just a voiceover performer, but I am a teacher, as you know. And I do a lot of coaching. My schedule is like that of a doctor. It's like on the hour, right?
Right.
So when we came together as Push Creative, those two things had been separate, the marketing and the teaching. But when we came together under the same roof, it became a branch of Push Creative. So not just teaching people voiceover, but also working with people in corporate America. It may be on their speech and diction or their performance in front of a camera. And so the teaching and the coaching became a branch of Push Creative, to the point now where we also do events around voiceover, and a lot, and I know one of your questions is charity, so what the proceeds to, or partial proceeds to our events go to the Alzheimer's Association. Sometimes we bring awareness to another charity called the Little Babyface Foundation, which is here in New York, which focuses on kids that are born with myocryostia, which is without an ear or an eardrum in some cases, or facial deformities. So we also do a lot of work and pro bono work for the Little Babyface Foundation. And then along the way, other foundations and other corporations have sifted through that we're both very passionate about. So our events that we set up, even though they benefit the voiceover community, they tend to benefit other charities or other organizations.
A reoccurring theme in my interview was networking, and as a voice actor, I knew networking was important, but Rudy and Joan explain in depth about the real importance of networking.
You just never stop networking. And,
Right.
But how
It's like
you network,
breathing.
yeah, how you network is perhaps key. I mean, I wouldn't give you a list of, oh, here are the key people I talk to,
Cat
You can go to our
burglars.
website and you see the clients we work for, and you know, okay, well, some sort of networking took place for those relationships to happen. But when we talk about working with charities, we're meeting other people.
We're networking.
Who are also devoting time to those charities, but they have other pursuits when they're not helping the charity. So they're not just the surgeons who run the Little Babyface Foundation or the administrators who run the Alzheimer's Association, but they're the volunteers who come from all walks of life. And in some
Yes.
cases, there's a connection between what they're doing and what
Absolutely.
we're doing. So
But-
Joan, for example, has wound up doing voiceover jobs for people who discovered she was a voice actor through working on a charity event.
Yeah.
You know, but just in conversation.
Right.
So you're not even trying to get work. You're talking to people about your life. And then they say, really? That's what you do? I could
Right.
use someone like you. And that is the best kind of networking you can possibly
Because
create.
everything
isn't it?
lives out of conversation. Things get created out of conversation. There is no other way. So when Rudy says networking is like breathing, that is the truth. And also, I believe, for myself, I love people. Regardless of what's happening, right? I love people. And so when I think of networking, I really truly think of it as loving people. And from there, I think relationships develop. Now, obviously not everyone you meet is a relationship, but if you have a love of humanity and people and kind of a heart for giving, I think it really works well in the arena.
When I visited the website pushcreative.tv, I was browsing around. I stumbled upon one of the most thought-provoking statements I heard in a long while. I asked them about it.
You said that when it's obvious that goals cannot be reached, keep your goals, but adjust the action steps. Can you give me some examples of how you use that for the business and for your clients?
Sure. I mean, that really falls in the category of innovation. Because you make a plan and you set out to achieve it a certain way. And oftentimes you make the assumption that if it doesn't go the way you intended, it's because something's wrong with the other side.
As well as if it doesn't quite make your pictures and images, then you disregard it. Okay?
So it comes down to, okay, I still want to get to the finish line. It's just not happening on this line. So I have to go around. I have to circumvent sometimes in order to get to the finish line. And that could mean some sort of major reevaluation of who I am and how I'm being in this process. Maybe what I think I have in terms of presentation isn't as good as I believe it to be. And it's not
That's true.
it's not getting the job done. And that has to be reevaluated and changed.
Right.
Maybe I'm the wrong person for this piece of it, and I should talk to someone else on my staff and say, you know what, you'd be better as the front person for this because you're good at X, Y, or Z, and I'm better at, this thing, so I'll do that part.
Talking about how each individual that has an integral part in the business, but when put together with other talents in different areas, everything comes together, as Joan explains.
When I wrote my book, Secrets of Voiceover Success, I drew what I called an action plan, right? And I dated things, and I also said the actions I would take to have these landmark things happen on a certain date. I didn't know if it would, but that was my intention, and that's what my actions were. So, end of that action plan, I get a publisher. And one of the things that I said, and also when I was pitching the book to people, one of the things I said is, I will readjust anything, but I will not change the title of the book. The title of the book was not Secrets of Voiceover Success, right? But one of the things I said in the pitch and what got people interested was the title of the book. So that was the one thing I didn't want to change. Well, when I got a publisher, they loved everything about the book except they wanted me to change the name,
Right.
right? So what did I do? I had to drop what in my mind drew people in, had people say yes, made it intriguing, made it something unique to a title that was more, it clarified it more what it was, and would draw people, the audience, to the book immediately. But I had to readjust
Right.
what I was really fixed about, actually. But I have to know outside of that life happens. And it doesn't happen according to my pictures necessarily, and that doesn't mean anything's wrong either,
Right.
right? So that's just one example of many during the day, right?
Yeah.
But that was something that I had my heart set on, was that title. And that was the one thing I had to change, but it made sense, regardless of emotionally what I thought and wanted.
I asked Joan about the challenges of writing a book and her process.
The thing that was life-changing, there were a couple things. One of them was to be able to give back to the community that gave so much to me. Although maybe when I first got into voiceover, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to write a book, or oh, I'm going to give back to the community. But as it turned out, my father had passed away from Alzheimer's, and so I was in a mode of grieving and wanting to do something positive in the grieving, which in my mind at that time had nothing to do with voiceovers in the community, but the end result of the book was that I was going to be able to give money and donate to the Alzheimer's Association, right? So how was I going to make that happen? Because I wasn't rich and I wasn't a cat burglar at the time. So I thought, my talents. And so because I'm also a people person, I wanted to bring in my community to be a part of that platform. And it just so happens the voiceover community is an incredible giving and an incredible community of talent.
And a bunch of hams.
And a bunch of hams. Right? So all that there, I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know the procedure about doing it, but I knew hustle. So
Right.
I reached out to the best, and also things occurred in reaching out, and the experience of reaching out to the best, and also having something to offer them. It wasn't just doing a freebie for me, it was offering something substantial to them, and people got it. I didn't have to talk to too many people. I had a wish list, and I started there, right? And with there would be no book if it wasn't for Rudy. I mean, he really jumped on board. And if I pitch Rudy, he doesn't always go for everything. I have to really sell him, right? But because once he comes on board with something, it's going to take off.
Right.
Right? So without me pitching him even, he got all the work I was doing and what I was doing, and then he came on board. And it just was an extraordinary connection between us two. But one of the things I think it did that excited me was that it created leadership, not just with me, but with the people in the book, in an area that previously no one had known them before, and especially known them as being leaders. So it shined a light on that, and that to me just meant a lot to me. I didn't know that was going to happen, but as I started to talk to people and get their stories and stuff, I realized, well, this is an area that we're not in.
For any business these days, it's challenging. How can we get more traffic to our website? What social media outlet is the best to reach more potential clients?
How does Push Creative stay relevant and successful?
Staying relevant is staying open.
Mm-hmm.
So staying open meaning
Right.
connecting with what people are trying to do out there.
Right.
I mean, if you have something to sell, you need some kind of marketing plan to get that done. You need to be thinking about how to get this to the people who need it. And if you're the source for that service, you're probably a lot busier making the product or generating the service than you can be thinking about how to get that service out to people. So staying relevant is about being open to what people out there are trying to create and get to the masses. And the more open you are to what that is and what their needs are, then the more relevant you're going to be in terms of how do I help them do it.
I do think what seems to be a challenge is that because there's so much social networking and so many different platforms, it's very easy to almost become a dinosaur in your mind about it. Oh, I don't want to go on Twitter. Twitter is this. I don't want to do that. That's that. But in what you're saying, I agree in terms of being open and and having at least a curiosity to get on some of these popular platforms and understand how to use them so that it can benefit what you're doing or who you are or brand awareness or whatever it may be, and using it as a marketing tool as opposed to, oh, that's for kids or whatever it is you'd be thinking, right? But that being open to me sounds simple, but it actually is a challenge,
Yeah.
right?
Social media is the new sandbox for all of us.
Yeah.
You know, you may not necessarily, like if you were to jump on something like Pinterest, I don't know if you use Pinterest, but that's a platform that's still relatively shaky in terms of how do I focus it for marketing purposes,
Right.
versus
How to get
just
it
having fun on it.
Right.
You know,
Right,
versus
right,
just
right.
being on there for fun.
Right.
And you
Right.
may jump on something like that, or Twitter, or Facebook, whatever it is,
Right.
depending on where you are. You could jump on one of these platforms and may not feel like there's any real relevance to you.
Right.
But what's important is staying open and playing in those platforms.
Right.
Leave some room for playing with all the different social
Exactly.
media that
At
comes
least
up.
the popular ones, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many.
And the ones that I would include those that don't appear to be popular, because they will be popular later.
Right. That's true.
Because whatever you get used to, there's a generation behind you who's getting used to something else.
Right. Because their parents aren't on there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the
Well, it
more
seems
you,
like more these days. Like I hear like my girlfriend's sons talking about, oh, we're not on Facebook anymore.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
well,
Right.
what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Oh, Instagram, Pinterest, this, that, the other.
Yes.
You know, and it's like Facebook is becoming more for the parents
Right.
to,
Right.
you know, get in touch with somebody that, you know, that they used to go to school with or whatever.
Yeah.
And some of us, and I, including myself, are promoting
Right.
things and
It is
and
a great way
everything.
to do that, I
But
believe.
yeah,
But I'm definitely not on Facebook going, I just took a shower and now
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
about
that's-
to walk the dog.
yeah.
I don't use it that way.
right.
But sometimes I do find it interesting, the manifestations and how people do use it. And it does kind of pique my interest sometimes what people do and what they say. But
Yeah.
I personally use it as a platform for, I actually use it as a more of a personality platform in terms of I like to showcase different personalities and what they're doing, including myself, but I mean in terms of what they're doing out in the world. As opposed to a platform where I put my opinions and I'm trying to get debate,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I see that a lot too. That's just not how I use mine.
Yeah.
Not
And-
bad, not wrong.
And
but-
people are they just want people to recognize. I mean, these people, if literally there was no Facebook, they would be sitting at home doing nothing. Now they have a platform. You know, I just took a shower. I just took care of my
I know,
ingrown
I just walked my
toenail.
dog.
Tell me
Right.
what you would think.
Right.
And it's a platform for them to
Personally-
feel like they're involved. You know,
Yeah.
and then their friends have to comment.
And I know
Yeah.
for myself, I would just pick up the phone and call someone and ask them a question.
Right.
If that's what, you know,
Exactly.
I use it in the way of showcasing, because again, I'm a people person, so I like showcasing personalities in my life and what people are up to that are powerful.
Right.
That's
it all
how I
feeds
use it.
back to her brand as well, because as a voice coach who does almost exclusively one-on-one training, her personality and who she is as a person means a lot. And when people can get connected with that and see something there for them, then that's great. But there's a lot of traffic in social media. A lot of it is traffic.
Yeah.
And meaning people are doing different kinds of things.
All kinds.
Just like when you look
Right.
at an interstate highway. Everybody's doing different things. Some are going on vacation, some are
That's
heading to
true,
work,
Rudy.
you know, it's just traffic. What you have to keep an eye on from a marketing standpoint is where are the opportunities to get your message in front of that traffic.
Yeah, that's,
So that's a whole other stream that's going on Facebook.
Right.
When you're watching,
Right.
where does the advertising show up and how does
Yeah,
it show up?
yeah.
Is it someone sharing something with you because they had a good experience with it? Or is it just an advertiser slipping something in? Hey, here's an event coming up.
Right.
And how do you get that targeted to the right people? And Facebook is very smart, as are the other social platforms, about targeting advertising or products and services to the people
It's
who
true.
are most interested in them.
and there wasn't this, 5 years ago?
Joan and Rudy were very gracious and accommodating to answering all my questions. But as a voiceover actor, I couldn't resist picking Rudy's brain about the inside world of getting voiceover work and how, thinking I knew so much, realized how little I knew. Rudy explains in depth about the other elements that are so critical in the voiceover world.
Transitioning from sort of your training stages, whether you're in school, working privately with a coach, to a point where an agent would say yes after hearing your demo reel and recognizing that there's some likelihood that their clients would take you on.
Right.
would want to audition you, and obviously for jobs that they feel are bookable for you. So getting from that training level to the professional level, one is an attitude and slash awareness. So add the awareness because a lot of people are just simply not aware of the difference between working in the minor leagues and working in the major leagues. You have an audio engineer, you have a voice director, you have the voice talent, you have the writer, the producer, the creative director. All of these people bring their specialties to play, and the voiceover performance is really just one part of the puzzle. It's a critical part of the puzzle, but it's one part of the puzzle, and the voice actor needs to be 100% with that. The voice actor shouldn't be thinking about, how do I edit myself?
Right.
Or I gotta go and learn these different programs, and how do I build a studio, and how do you edit nuances of sound problems. That's for
Imaging.
those professionals to deal with.
Right.
The voice actor should be thinking about performance. The voice actor should be thinking about, how do I bring these words to life as my own, so that they are believable and so that I am connecting my intention with the listener. Voiceover is not about reading well. The words are only on the paper because it's a delivery mechanism. Once you get those words, your job is to embody them and the intention behind them and the audience and all these things we've been talking about, and make them your own so they sound like you had this to say.
Right.
Okay, so we have something in the craft of voiceover and acting in general called the moment before. And that is, what happened before these words came out of your mouth? What caused you to say it? So it's like there was a pinch, and then the script is the ouch. It's important that you're working with people who, one, are doing it professionally. So if someone's designing your website, it's because they are a website designer, and you've seen 10 other websites that they've done for professional purposes.
Right.
If someone's creating your demo reel, it's because they do real spots, so they understand what goes into an actual spot, and they're able to translate that to a demo reel for you,
Okay.
as opposed to someone who just does demo reels. That's their job. That's all they do. They never work professionally for an ad agency or a client who needs a full spot for broadcast purposes. They only work directly with people who need demo reels. So they wind up being good at doing demo reels on a certain level. But what a demo reel means in the voiceover world for an agent or a casting director or for a buyer who's listening to your demo reel, what they're listening for is a sample of actual spots you've performed, cut down to a short compilation because nobody has all day to hear everything you've done. So we cut this down to, say, a minute. They're listening to see the variety and diversity of work you can perform across a number of professionally executed spots. They're not listening for a series of things you put together in a studio. And you have to have in mind, what is it like to put together a reel that's compiled from, say, 5 to 10 spots that were created over the last 2 to 3 years. So you have a history, a continuity of history in mind when you're building a demo reel, so that when someone listens to it, it feels like they were done on different days in different studios by different directors over a course of time. You're going to have to save. I mean, I would suggest to someone, if I were working with them, like, say, consulting with them, on how to build a business plan for what they're doing as a voice actor. You got to step back and you got to look at the reality of what you have in terms of funds, and map out a plan over time that you can manage, monetarily speaking, and but there's no real shortcut. So what a lot of people do is they try to find every possible shortcut they can to get themselves to a point where they have a demo reel and a website and some marketing materials to start walking up to agents or whoever they think might purchase their services. And what they wind up doing is presenting something very amateurish. something that's Bush League to people who are experts. You really want to be ready when you go in to see an agent. And it takes something, it's just not as simple as one might hope it would be or imagine it to be, to find the right people, the right combination of people to guide you to the point where you're ready to go and knock on that door.
To get in contact at Push Creative, go to pushcreative.tv. For more information about Alzheimer's, please visit alv.org. Also visit joanthevoice.com. And one of my favorites, that's voiceover.com. For WCSB, this is Rob Barden.